Assalamu alaikum, welcome to Ahlulbayt Live on Ahlulbayt TV, and tonight we are remembering Imam Jafar al Sadiq alayhi salam, the 6th Imam, and this day or today or tomorrow, depending on which calendar you're following, is the date of his martyrdom when he finally passed away after 34 years of imamate. And inshallah tonight we will have with us our guest Ali Musavi, and we'll be looking at the life of Imam Jafar al Sadiq alayhi salam in different aspects. First of all, looking at his contribution to the madhhab of the Ahlulbayt alayhim salam, and looking at his influence in the society around him at the time, as well as the conditions in which he was living. And then inshallah we'll also be looking at Imam Jafar al Sadiq alayhi salam's contribution to the modern world. As we know, he also had students who learned science from him, and those sciences went on to contribute to medicine in the European world. And then finally, inshallah, in the last third of the program, we will look at the events that surrounded his passing away, and of course the designation of the next Imam after him alayhi salam. One of the best sources to refer to for the details on the life of Imam Jafar al Sadiq alayhi salam is again Sheikh Mufid's Kitab al-Irshad, the book of guidance. And interestingly, when one searches the internet about Imam Jafar al Sadiq alayhi salam, he does come up on a few forums of the followers of the other madhabs, and he's known by, again, the members of the Ahlul Sunnah. His name comes up time to time for them, and sometimes they will ask a sheikh, well, who was he? Because he's featuring in some of our books, or we notice that he's part of a lineage of a transmission of hadith. And so, of course, the question does arise for many people, who was Imam Jafar al Sadiq alayhi salam? What did he teach? There has even been a dispute over whether he really was the teacher of Imam Abu Hanifa and Imam Malik as well. And inshallah tonight we'll be dealing with some of those issues. But undoubtedly we can see that he was hugely influential in his time, also due to the circumstances of his time, which allowed him to expand upon the teachings of the Ahlulbayt alayhim salam, expand in terms of the number of students that he was able to access. And as the sources say, he was in fact tutored or brought up by Imam Zayn al-Abidin alayhi salam, who was his grandfather. And Imam Zayn al-Abidin alayhi salam had a great influence upon Imam Jafar al Sadiq. So after the salah, we will further discuss his life, inshallah. Assalamu alaikum. Assalamu alaikum, welcome back to Ahlulbayt Live on Ahlulbayt TV. With my guest Sayed Ali Khalkhali here, who's here to talk about the contribution of Imam Jafar al Sadiq alayhi salam. And as I said in the introduction, that even members of other schools of thought, they notice his name coming up and they know his status among the followers of Ahlulbayt alayhi salam. And I've seen a few instances where they've asked the scholars, well, who is he? Who was he? And which seems to be a bit of a shame that he was, he made this brilliant contribution to Islam, but again, his existence has been kind of kept silent about, or at least not emphasized, probably even by followers of Ahlulbayt alayhim salam as well.
A'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajeem. Bismillahir rahmanir rahim. My salams to yourself and the viewers at home, and my condolences on this occasion, on the martyrdom of the 6th Imam, Imam Jafar al Sadiq salawatullah wa salamu alayhi, and condolences to the Imam of our time on such a tragic occasion whereby we are remembering the 6th Imam, who I personally believe is very oppressed in terms of those who have not had not just the opportunity to know the Imam Jafar al Sadiq salawatullah wa salamu alayhi, but everything that's available for us to know about his life, but some are not putting that extra energy or effort within themselves to know about Imam al-Sadiq. One of the famous scholars of the one of the Muslim sects by the name of Abu Hanifa, Nu'man ibn Thabit. He himself states and admits very clearly that لولا السنتان لهلك النعمان. If it was not for the 2 years which he studied under the 6th Imam, Imam Jafar al Sadiq, then Nu'man, which was his name, would have perished, would have been at lost. And Abu Hanifa and Malik ibn Anas, again, both one of the top scholars of the other sects in Islam, other madhahib, they themselves were students of the 6th Imam, Imam Jafar al Sadiq, and most of their teachings were at the University of Imam Jafar al Sadiq. And what I find that we need to ensure that we do is, especially in these few days and few nights, is put extra effort in understanding and knowing Imam Sadiq, inshallah.
Thank you. Yes, and this was one point I raised in the introduction, where I've seen a kind of debate or refutation on whether Imam Abu Hanifa even studied under Imam Jafar al Sadiq alayhi salam. And one of the arguments that was put forth was, well, Abu Hanifa was 2 years older than Imam Jafar al Sadiq alayhi salam. They were contemporaries, so how could he possibly have studied under him? I mean, what would you say to that?
Again, with the reference to age, even when we look back to the early years of Imam al-Sadiq, when he was 11 years old and 12 years old, he would enter the discussion circles with his grandfather, Imam Zain al-Abidin, Imam Muhammad al-Baqir. And it's very interesting how Imam al-Sadiq, not just he was much younger than those who were with him in the study circles, but a lot of us, when we go to study circles or university or classes, we sometimes stay silent, or if we do discuss and get involved, we just discuss what's the plain obvious discussion.
Yeah.
But what Imam al-Sadiq would do, he would challenge all the other students, of course barring his own father and his grandfather, who were the roots of knowledge.
Yeah.
And what he would do, actually, when he was only 11 years old, he challenged all the thinkers there in regards to the astronomy, in regards to a discussion on astronomy, because even at that time, a lot of the people, even the Muslims, they believed that the earth was the center of the universe.
Yeah.
And Imam al-Sadiq challenged them, and with quotations and with a plain observation that he himself said that the sun rises and the sun sets, and the hours of the sun during the day and the night differ. And that was, he brought evidences that the earth was not actually the center of the universe, rather the sun, the solar system, and the earth revolves around the sun. And that was only proven a few centuries ago by the Western scholars, that what actually Imam al-Sadiq, the 6th Imam, stated many hundreds of years ago was actually true. So in terms of the age, it was never an issue whether Abu Hanifa was 2 years older than Imam al-Sadiq. Furthermore, what we can add on to this is Abu Hanifa himself, he would sometimes, the Abbasid Khalifa, he would call Abu Hanifa. So he would recognize Abu Hanifa as a leader of one of the sects of the madhahib. And he would say, that man, Imam Jafar al Sadiq, I want you to harass him and oppress him. In what way? In terms of questioning him.
Right.
Because they knew that Imam al Sadiq, people from all over the world, we have references that people from China, from Greece, from Spain, from different parts of the world, they would go and visit Imam al-Sadiq and they would study under him. So what would Mansur do? He would harass Imam al-Sadiq, bringing him towards Baghdad, and he would say, Abu Hanifa, I want you to challenge him now.
Right.
There was one incident where Abu Hanifa would ask Imam al-Sadiq 40 questions in one case. Some people, when they would ask us 5 questions, would get tired and would say, come on, just get over it. But Imam al-Sadiq not only was patient in answering the questions, rather he would answer the questions of Abu Hanifa. Every single one of them, he would say, you say so and so. The people of Medina say this view. Our view, the view of the Ahlulbayt, is this view. And he would give the evidences for this. And then after the 40 cases, Abu Hanifa would just say, that's it, I've answered, and Imam al-Sadiq has given the best of answers, and he would look at Mansur and say, look, this is the root of knowledge, these are the Ahlul Ilm, these are the ones with the divine knowledge, and you will never be able to challenge them in such a way that thinking that we are better than them, or more knowledgeable than them.
Thank you. Now, again, looking at the time that he lived in, we know that Imam Baqir alayhi salam, his father, and he himself alayhi salam, were, although they're living under the caliphate, somehow they were able to, it seems, bring out the teachings of the Imams of Ahlulbayt alayhi salam. They were able to kind of crystallize. And looking into the history of the madhab, it does, because it had to be sort of hidden in so many ways because people would be killed, that, you know, this was one of the reasons why it wasn't sort of crystallized in texts or explained in text, so it was sort of channeled by, from, you know, word of mouth. So at this time he was able to bring it out. I mean, so in that sense, and when we read a lot of the ahadith, you know, it's he who is narrating from the Holy Prophet, peace be upon him and his family. So what was the contribution that he made?
It's interesting that at the time of Imam Baqir and Imam Sadiq, there was a huge turmoil in the politics involved, in the governments and the political powers. So both Imam Baqir started this where a lot of the Muslims, the sincere people who are thirsty for knowledge, they would approach Imam al-Baqir and ignore the political situation that was involved. Right. So Imam Muhammad Baqir, the father of the sixth Imam, he was the one who started this establishment of the Islamic University of Theology. When it came to the time of Imam al-Sadiq, there were about 4,000 students who attended the University of Imam al-Sadiq. And what's interesting that Imam Sadiq used that time very, very to the maximum possible opportunity. And what's interesting, it's not just that Imam Sadiq was teaching them all the knowledge. It was a time where people were also being bombarded with other kinds of knowledge and theories. So they'll come to Imam Sadiq to get the actual true statement. So even if you study the other sects, not just in terms of fiqh, but other sects which we see today in society, most of them started at the time of Imam al-Sadiq. Yeah. So there were also political powers and games that people were trying to do in terms of the theories, in terms of different studies. So a lot of them would also go back to Imam al-Sadiq with their view, and he would counteract that opportunity. And what Imam al-Sadiq saw, that even though that between the political disturbances between the Umayyads and the Abbasids themselves, before they went into power, their slogan was outright that the governorship should be to the rights of the family of the Holy Prophet. Yeah. In one way, they wanted to try to get the support of the Ahlulbayt and the followers of the Ahlulbayt. But as soon as they came into power, they were the very first group who had the enmity towards Imam al-Sadiq and the family of the Holy Prophet. And there were many occasions when they actually oppressed and tortured the holy family of the Holy Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So we noticed that Imam al-Sadiq, even there were some of the companions who went to Imam al-Sadiq and they wanted to revolt against the governorship. And there were some testy occasions where Imam al-Sadiq would test the companion. Are they true companions? For example, one occasion where there was a group who came from Khurasan. And this is always, we put applicable to today's society also. They came from Khurasan and they said, look, oh Imam, we are your lovers. We are your Shia, we are your followers. Let's revolt against the governor. The political situation, the oppressors of the time. Imam al-Sadiq said, are you truly my supporters and my lovers and my Shia? They said, yes, we are your lovers. You command us to do, we'll obey whatever you command us. Imam al-Sadiq looked at them and said, you see that tanur, that clay oven, go sit inside it. One looked at the other, sit inside the oven, start questioning the Imam, asking questions, me sit inside. He said, look, it's a simple thing, go sit inside the oven. At that moment, there was a man by the name of Harun al-Makki. He was walking by. He was one of the companions of Imam Sadiq, and he was one of the lovers of Imam Sadiq. Imam Sadiq said, Harun, go sit inside the oven. Harun did not ask any question. He knew that the Imam of the time, his command is a divine command. Harun went and sat inside. Then Imam looked at the companions, the people of Khurasan. How are you? How's the situation in Khurasan? They were thinking, what's happened to Harun? After a moment, Imam asked Harun to come back out. Remember, maybe the oven was off, maybe the oven was on. That wasn't what was going on in Harun's mind, neither the Imams. Imam wanted to test the people. Imam looked at the people of Khurasan. He said, how many people do you have like Harun there? They all looked into shame. He said, when you yourselves say that you wish to revolt against the governor, and yourselves are not ready or willing to be under the guidance of the Imam of the time, and if we don't have one like Harun Makki in Khurasan, then how would you wish for us to go against the governorship? So Imam used the time wisely. He knew that this time is to propagate the teachings of the Ahlulbayt, propagate the true teachings.
Yeah.
Because, for example, one of the titles that we all know about the Imam is Imam Jafar al Sadiq. Does that mean that other Imams, why did they not have this title? The reason being that every Imam had the title which was customary for that particular time period that he was. For example, Imam Sayed Ali Khalkhali, the jewel of worship, because at that time he had the opportunity to propagate the teachings of Ahlulbayt through his worshipping Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, through worshipping Allah. Imam al-Sadiq, at that time there were so many liars, so many people who were fabricating ahadith. There were some people who were bringing different teachings, even from different religions, into the religion of Islam. Imam al-Sadiq was known as Sadiq, for he was teaching the true teachings of the Ahlulbayt. So they would come to him, what does as-Sadiq say? The truthful one. And that was the same title given to his great-grandfather, the Holy Prophet ﷺ. At that time, there was many also who were lying and fabricating, but the Prophet would also give the true teachings.
I mean, I was reading as well, it was around this time that the Mu'tazili school was getting started as well. And as you say, when you read into the, the hadith collections, a lot of them, including Al-Kafi, they've got quite a few scenarios where exactly that, people are coming to the Imam saying, well, we've heard this person say X, Y, Z, what do you say? And so he is constantly, must have been, well, Allah, supports the Imam, so, but for us it would be tiring, as you say, but he's constantly clarifying. And in a way, this is quite useful for us, because he actually answers a lot of questions that we have today. So you can look back, oh, they're asking the same question, and this is his answer. So.
Even a lot of the questions that not even just related to inter-Islamic discussions in regards to fiqh or in regards to issues that are between the Muslims, but a lot of questions that we noticed were asked by non-Muslims also.
Right.
And they would approach the sixth Imam. And what great personality the Imam had is, of the 4,000 students, he had students that he himself had trained personally. So first, those people who wished to question, they would go and ask the trainers of the Imam or the graduates of the Imam.
Right.
And sometimes if they would be able to answer in the best of possible ways, or sometimes they would get to that a dead end where they themselves didn't know the true answer. So they would go to the sixth Imam, and the sixth Imam would answer. So for example, Bahlul is one example, or Hisham ibn Hakam.
Yeah.
He would be a second example, who would always give scenarios where he would, after a few days, would ask the Imam. And then there was other occasions where the Imam himself would answer. And a lot of times, the leaders of other sects or the other religions, it's not just a layman or anyone who had no knowledge, rather it was the most knowledgeable of them would come and not just challenge the Imam, but rather they would come to ask questions. And a lot of the questions, especially in terms of atheism questions, those are the atheists which were asking the Imam. For example, Abu Shakir al-Daysani would always ask the Imam questions. A lot of the questions that he would ask, some of the youth today are asking. Some of the Muslims of today's society are asking. And some of the questions that we may find, oh, that's such a simple question. But those questions have still been in our minds today. And the answers were the best of answers that the Imam responded to them.
I was trying to find it. There's a beautiful narration where, because also actually this issue of some of his followers discussing and debating, which he encouraged them to. I mean, on the other hand, this is a kind of an issue in the school of Ahlulbayt alayhim salam, about, because you see some narrations that say you know, that, I mean, even he warned his followers against spreading the knowledge to the wrong people. And so one might think, well, we shouldn't really propagate. But on the other hand, yeah, here it is. It's beautiful, where he says, this is after Hisham has come out of a debate, and then he says, Hisham, you are hardly likely to fall, for you tuck in your legs like a bird. When you are about to fall to earth, you fly. Therefore, a person like you should debate with the people. Guard against slipping, and intercession will be behind you. So,
so there's an extra backing and support.
Yeah, yeah.
Hisham al-Hakam also has many incidences that I think we need to take many lessons from. A lot of us, sometimes we focus on one particular angle of the lives of the Imam, but we need to also focus on the companions of the Imam, because we ourselves, we are trying to emulate the teachings of the Ahlulbayt, and those who are close to the Ahlulbayt, they saw the Ahlulbayt day in, day out, they tried their best to gain as much lessons from the life of the Imams. For example, Hisham al-Hakam, Salman al-Muhammadi, these we need to try to take many lessons from them. And Hisham has many great debates that he used to have with the atheists and the non-Muslims, and even between the Muslims themselves, and the answers that he used to give, all the teachings of the Ahlul Bayt. And when he would go towards the Imam, who would provide him with the answers further, it shows that level that the Imam would push others towards propagating the teachings. Right. And then at times he would say, no, you come towards the Imam, he would give you the true teachings.
Right, thank you. So looking at you know, in terms of, for example, organizing, you know, collections of ahadith and aqidah and many other things. I mean, obviously he's, as you say, he had 4,000 students. So now this is another thing, because he must have taught some things that were acceptable to those who did not recognize him as an imam. They were able to take quite a lot away from him. And then there would have been the teachings on, for example, you know, walaya and other things that perhaps they would have rejected. I mean, so what did he do to kind of crystallize, and how did he teach? With
I mean, the Imam had general lessons with the whole of the mass, and then they had specific sessions for the followers of the Ahlul Bayt. And even there were instances that the Imam would teach and he would guide. Some would come with different views. So then Imam, for example, would never put a shotgun on someone's head and say, you have to follow my view. Rather, this opens the angle of the freedom of understanding, freedom of thinking. Of course, when it comes to some of the knowledge, which is the knowledge of the Ahlul Bayt, the true divine teaching, there's no questioning. But the Imam would give that person the opportunity to give his view. Then the Imam would give the true teachings. Then he would, even though that others would understand, others would be convinced, sometimes that person would stay on his belief. Again, the Imams would never force them to come to that particular way. For example, that was the famous sort of discussion or debate between Abu Hanifa and Bahlul, who was the student of Imam as-Sadiq salawatullah alayhi. And what he would do is, Abu Hanifa had the belief that shaitan would not be burnt in fire, because he was made of fire, shaitan. And then the free will and predestination discussion, and the right of doing good and bad. So Bahlul would, for example, throw from the mud at Abu Hanifa. And then that discussion, which has been understood by many, again, we learn from the students of Imam Sadiq that even though Abu Hanifa did not come to that thinking, still opened that freedom of education.
And we can discuss that further. We've just got a caller on the line. Assalamu alaikum.
Alaikum assalam. Sorry, let me just turn on the TV.
Walaikum assalam. Sorry?
Sorry, I just got a question. The first question is, I know Imam Jafar al Sadiq is a sixth Imam, and we follow his school or mathhab of thought. If he's a sixth Imam, how come we don't follow the Imams before him? And also, just a couple of questions. Am I able to pray when I've got extensions in my hair and also fake nails? Thank you.
Okay. Well, I suppose Imam Jafar would be able to answer the second question. But yeah, I mean, it's called the Jafari madhab. So
when we mention that the followers of the Ahlulbayt are of the Ja'fari madhab, it means that the teachings of fiqh, of course, are from the Holy Prophet ﷺ and from the Ahlul Bayt. However, during the time of Imam as-Sadiq, the sixth Imam, that was the time that the Ja'fari madhab was established in terms of the teachings, all the teachings of the fiqh rulings.
Right.
And even that then was when most of the other madhahib, for example, we mentioned Abu Hanifa, so the madhab of the Hanafi madhab, for example, which is prevalent mostly in Pakistan and the subcontinent, for example, and other areas.
Iraq.
Or in Iraq also, Abu Hanifa is buried in Iraq. Or also in the Maliki sect. They started at the time of Imam as-Sadiq, for example, the Malik ibn Anas was studying. And so we do also follow the teachings of all of the Imams. We do follow the teachings of Imam al-Baqir, the father of the sixth Imam. However, we are known as the Ja'fari madhab because our fiqh is from the teachings of the sixth Imam, which is from the Holy Prophet. Incidentally, sallallahu alayhi ajma'in, incidentally, the sixth Imam has a hadith where he mentions hadithi hadithu abi, or hadithu abi hadithu abi. And he goes all the way to the Holy Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, and the hadith of the Holy Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa sallam is the wahi from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, where he mentions that my hadith, the statements, so if you imagine that there are 4,000 students, and if we haven't mentioned this before, Imam as-Sadiq, he lived the longest of lives, of course, between the Imams who passed away, 65 years. So he had the greater opportunity to propagate the teachings. So even during his imamat, which was over 30 years, that was of the longest of the lives of the Imams who had the opportunity to teach. So if one thinks 4,000 students and over 30 years of the imamat of the sixth Imam, it was a great deal of time for the Imam to spread the teachings, the fiqh rulings, all the issues, because a lot of our ahadith are from the sixth Imam, which are from the Holy Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So we do follow all of the Ahlul Bayt. However, we are known as the fiqh of Ja'fari because of the university which Imam Sadiq established.
Okay, thank you very much. We've just got 3 minutes till we go to break. I don't know if you wanted to answer the fiqh question.
I think the fiqh questions, if Sayyid Muhammad was on the question on the Sunday nights where they have the fiqh rulings.
We can do that, yes. Sayyid Muhammad Musawi is here tomorrow, inshallah, so if you want to call in with the questions on fiqh, then you can call in and get your answers there. So we've just got 3 minutes till we go to break. In fact, I had a question as well. I mean, although he was the Imam, and there had been obviously a lot of oppression of the Imams, and yet we see that he did have this many students. So they must have, been drawn to him in spite of the fact that the authorities had imprisoned Ahlulbayt and killed them. He still, if they let the lid off, then everybody kind of.
Yeah, and incidentally, the sixth Imam was teaching in most of his life. He was in Medina, the holy city of Medina, and Abbas al-Khalifa had moved the capital of the Islamic Caliphate towards Baghdad. So of course there was a little distance, but they still noticed that a lot of people from Iraq were going towards Medina. A lot of people from different parts of the world were going towards Medina. Hence they tried to, on 5 occasions, the hadith state that they summoned the sixth Imam to Baghdad, and they brought the scholars and to challenge him and tried their very best to bring a fault or something that they can prison the Imam, imprison him, or put him in closed doors, but they were never successful at all. And they still noticed that a lot of people would go towards the sixth Imam in the holy city of Medina. And we also need to remember that the sixth Imam, we, the followers of Ahlul Bayt, need to also remember him more. Even his wiladat, for example, which is on the same day as the Holy Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. We dedicate that day for the Holy Prophet, but we also need to remember the sixth Imam, who was born on the 17th of Rabi'ul Awwal.
That's a very good point to remember as well. We're just about to go to break. Inshallah, we'll be back in about 5 minutes. Assalamu alaikum. Assalamu alaikum, welcome back to Ahlulbayt, live on Ahlulbayt TV, where we are remembering the life of Imam Jafar al Sadiq alayhi salam on the anniversary of his martyrdom. In this section of the program, with my guest Sayed Ali Khalkhali, we're going to be looking at Imam Jafar al Sadiq alayhi salam's contribution to the modern world. Something worth bearing in mind, considering again that his scientific contributions again are not well known enough. What contribution has he made to the modern world?
The more you read about the life of Imam Sadiq and the contribution he made to the modern world today, the more you think to yourself, what an outstanding figure that nearly 14 centuries ago, 1,400 years ago, such a thought process was evolved, and such knowledge was propagated to the students. And sometimes some of the lessons we learn from the life of Imam Sadiq, today we start to call out, wow. Imagine 14th century ago, and the students who had studied under the Imam. And it's interesting that at that time, the time of Imam Sadiq, as we mentioned, that there was a lot of discussions in theology. And there was a lot of discussions in regards to logical theories, and it was time where the oppressors, they knew that Imam Sadiq was teaching the true teachings of the Ahlulbayt. So what they would do is they would promote the teachings of others.
Right.
So you would notice at that time the thoughts of the Greek studies, Aristotle and Plato and all of these, they were starting to become molding into the Islamic teachings, and the Imam would confront them. And even some of the teachings of the Christianity, Imam Sadiq would confront those who were Muslims, but they had the thoughts of others involved in them. And if you think of the modern world and the scientific world, Imam not just was teaching Islamic studies, rather chemistry. Famous teacher in chemistry and mathematics, physics, by the name of Jabir ibn Hayyan, who also the theory of Pythagoras, he had the theory translated in Arabic, and he had also many mathematical theories, algebra, for example. What Jabir ibn Hayyan had was 400 treatises, 400 studies, 400 projects. Now, when we go to university, we think of 1, 2, 3 projects, and we think, that's so much that we've done. Jabir ibn Hayyan had 400 treatises of the chemistry that the 6th Imam taught him. And today, we take lessons from those 6 Imam. I was reading today that Imam al-Sadiq, he taught that for the mothers, that when they carry their newborn, for them to carry the newborn on the left side, so the head of the newborn to be on the left side. And even today I was thinking, why would the Imam say this? And many thinkers, again, would say that there's no truth in this, there's no science behind it. Until the early 19th century, university actually performed a study on all newborns. And they noticed that all the newborns who their mother were carrying them on the left side, they were more peaceful, they were more calm.
Oh, because it's close to the mother's heart.
Ahsantum. Right. So then they studied the biological reasoning behind it. They noticed that the baby, when it's in the fetus, when it's as a fetus, when it's in the womb of the mother, it gets used to the rhythm of the mother's heartbeats. So that sound becomes something of the norm, and it's a peaceful sound for them. So when the newborn is being carried, the one which is closer to the left side, that is actually more peaceful for the child. And this was 14 centuries ago that the Imam would recommend the newborns to be on the left side of the mother. That's one discovery. Another discovery of the 6th Imam, for example, was in terms of, he would mention that of course, human beings are from the earth. And there are minerals and components and elements of the earth in the human body. And then he would go through the ratio and the proportion. He would mention that there are some elements which are of the larger proportion in the body, some which are of the smaller, and then there are the third proportion, which are the minute proportion. And then he would mention which proportion, for example, the oxygen, the hydrogen, the carbon, which are in the larger proportion. And this again was found recently, that the proportion of the different elements which are available in the human body and the ratio that the Imam mentioned of the three different elements which are available, that's recently been discovered. Again, we go further in physics, where the Imam would mention, at that time, the Greek mythology and the different Western sciences, they would mention that there are only 4 different components.
Okay.
Fire, water, air, and the 4th one was earth. And then the 4th Imam would say, the 6th Imam would actually say no, that there are more. For example, he would mention that the water is actually of hydrogen and oxygen, fire is composed of them, because at that time they would only think of these 4 as being, that's it, and there's nothing else composed. But the Imam would go even further deeper, and he would disprove their theory, and he would come with the true teachings and the true theories. This is in the science level, and there are many more lessons.
Okay, inshallah, and we will discuss those more further on in the program. We've got a call on the line. Assalamu alaikum.
Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum assalam.
First of all, I pay taziyah to all of you, on the martyrdom of Imam Jafar al Sadiq. And secondly, I have a question about Imam Jafar al Sadiq. First of all, I may mention that I read a book almost 15-20 years before, written by, Western scholars, a group of Western scholars, Europeans and Americans, including some Muslims. That book is called Superman in Islam. And that book is about Imam Jafar al Sadiq. And that book is really a wonderful piece of work about the introduction of the Holy Sixth Imam, Imam Jafar al Sadiq. Okay, now, I love all of the holy Imams, all of the prophets, but I have a special kind of love for Imam Jafar al Sadiq as a teacher, a special one. Sometimes I get worried about it, that why I have it, because we should not discriminate or differentiate among the prophets or the Imams, as the Holy Quran says, La nufarriqu baina ahadim minhum. And sometimes I get too worried and start thinking, am I a hypocrite? Why I love Imam Jafar al Sadiq more other than the other Imams? So that is my question. Please tell me, is it something normal, or is there something to be corrected inside me?
Inshallah.
And secondly, I ask a question, that where can I get books about other holy Imams which can introduce, them very well in the English language? Okay. Okay. Thank you very much. Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullah. Thank you very much for your contribution. I want to see if that book Superman is in print, because the respective viewer said it was around about 30 years ago. So I hope it's still in print. I'm going to search for it, inshallah. People do have different kind of connections to the Imams, don't they? People have connections to certain Imams, and I've heard people feeling a bit guilty about it because they might have an affinity more with Imam Ali alayhi salam or Imam Hussein alayhi salam.
I think what needs to be of concern is if the affinity is to a level that you dissociate, or your teachings are different to the other Imams, for example. But if your affinity is to one particular Imam, for example, or a companion of the Imam, and you take the teachings of all of the Imams, for example, and you're under their shade and their umbrella, then there is no harm in that. And especially, for example, the viewer mentioned that he has a special affinity and bond with Imam Jaffar, and he mentions him as his teacher. course, the teacher, the sixth Imam. However, his teachings are the teachings of the other Imams.
Yes.
So there is no harm at all in that kind of view. For example, we have in different cultures, they will have a particular affinity to, for example, Abu Fadl Abbas, al-Baneen. There is no harm in that as long as you do not dissociate or distance oneself from the teachings of the other Imams or the Ahlulbayt. Other than that, then he should not be feeling guilty, rather than continuing the teachings of the Ahlulbayt in general.
I would even be tempted to say, of course, this is just speculation, but I would also be tempted to say that the Imams actually may be the one who's choosing the person to be closer to them. So it may be that Imam Jafar al Sadiq is the one who has moved closer to the viewer and said, I want you,
yes,
near to me, close to my walaya.
Yes.
So, what was the other question? That
in regards to any books?
Yes.
That there are.
Yeah.
There is a great biography of all of the Imams, which has been translated to English that I know of, and a few other languages in Persian and Urdu, by the great scholar Baqir Abdul Samad al-Qurashi.
Okay.
Who passed away last year, may Allah bless his soul, and he has a biography on every single Imam. Each book is dedicated to the Imams and the Holy Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So there are many different publications of this book. Okay. For example, on the book of Imam as-Sadiq, he has a particular book which has been translated in the English language and is available both online and in hardback, paperback.
Okay, thank you. I mean, also just to help people to find the place, there is an online shop called murtaza.co.uk, murtaza.co.uk, where you can get a lot of the books in English. So that's a useful title. Could you just repeat that? It's Abdul Baqir Abdul Samad
Baqir Abdul Samad al-Qurashi. Baqir Abdul Samad al-Qurashi.
Okay, thank you, sorry. Okay, so yeah, so that's useful for anyone who would like to know more. And we've got another caller on the line before we continue. Assalamu alaikum.
Assalamu alaikum. How are you, Sister Rebecca?
Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullah. Alhamdulillah, I'm okay, thank you.
Right, well, I've been speaking to you quite a lot, haven't I?
Yes, how are you?
I'm alright, thank you. When the summer came, he said Assalamu alaikum to me, if you remember, when I called.
Yes.
Right. What I'm trying to ask is, this brother of ours, he just phoned and he said that he's very close to Imam Jafar al Sadiq.
Yeah.
Alayhi salam. So, well, he's a lucky man, of course. But the same way, I'm really, really scared of Imam Ali alayhi salam. I just don't know why. And when I go to Najaf and I'm walking towards his shrine, Roma, so it's like, I'm shaking, I'm shivering, I have a strange feeling to walk towards Imam Ali. Of course, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is very great. I can't even think about him, of course. He can't come into somebody's house or anything. And Nabi Pak is also too great, of course. Yeah. We do believe that. And then the third person on the horizon is Imam Ali alayhi salam. And when you walk in Najaf, and all my, I feel strain, like all my hair on my body are starting.
Right.
And I just go there and I feel like that. But not any other Imam at all. So is this weird or what? This is what I'm trying to ask as well. Because I'm very, very close to the fourth Imam.
Right.
And I'm sure why I'm close to fourth Imam is because of the Azan, all the time you listen to the Majalis and all what he went through. I can understand that's why I'm so close to him. But of course, I do understand that I'm very close to Imam Zaman, Imam of our time as well. But I just want to ask why I'm so scared about Imam Ali alayhi salam, because that is my question. Really. So I'm just trying to ask, is it normal to be like that? Is it something weird I am the odd one out?
I'm sure you're not. Thank you so much for your question. I mean, thank you very much. Well, I think I've known of other people actually although this is going slightly off topic, but I mean, my view is Imam Ali alayhi salam was very much a person of the intellect.
No doubt.
And I know that other people have gone to his haram and they feel like, I've got to be in my best behavior, and you know, it's got that kind of slightly detached feeling, because Imam Ali alayhi salam was such a person of the intellect.
I think a lot of people, when they go to the holy shrine of Amir al-Mu'mineen in Najaf, they feel something special, they feel something extra special, especially the great Amir al-Mu'mineen that we have, the great example that he portrayed for us, not in terms of just his battlefield courage and bravery, rather his patience and the oppression that he went through, and the resilience to those people of the time. And Amir al-Mu'mineen still went through all of that and portrayed the patience and portrayed the teachings of the Holy Prophet ﷺ. So as the hadith says that أنا وعلي أبوا هذه الأمة, I and Ali, the Holy Prophet says that I and Imam Ali are the fathers of the nation. So in the same way that when we go to the Holy Prophet ﷺ's shrine and Imam Ali's shrine, we feel that feeling that this is our leading figure, our father figure. This is our true role model in society. This is who we need to completely follow as our example. We need to emulate his life. Whatever difficulty we may think that we have gone through in our society, it's nothing in comparison to what Amir and the Holy Prophet ﷺ went through. And again, the sister mentioned that she has some attachment towards the fourth Imam, and if this is at all a weird thing or anything, no, not at all. Again, if there is an affinity to one particular Imam or one particular Ma'soom or one particular companion, as long as there's no distancing from the teachings of the other Imams or the other members of the Ahlulbayt, and you continue the path of the others, then that in itself is a blessing.
Okay, thank you very much. I'm not surprised with Imam Ali alayhi salam. I mean, I remember when I was reading Turn to Nahj al-Balagha, and you know, for the first time, and the impact of his personality, you know, he's a leader, so you can't avoid the impact of his personality. But we've just got another caller on the line, which we'll take. Assalamu alaikum.
Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullah.
I'm the same person who called earlier.
Okay.
I think you were interested in the name of that book I mentioned.
Oh, yes.
Then I can give you the number, I mean, and the exact title of the book.
Oh, thank you very much.
Okay, the title of that book in Persian is Maghaz-e Mutafakkir Islam.
Okay.
And the title of the Urdu version is Superman in Islam.
Ah, okay.
And I have seen this book in English as well. Yeah.
Okay.
And if you are interested in Urdu copy, I can give you the telephone number and name of the shop and address.
Brilliant.
That is in Lahore in Pakistan.
Oh, excellent. Thank you. Because I'm trying to improve my Urdu. So.
Okay. Okay. The name of the shop is Classic Books.
Okay.
Yeah. And the address is 42.
Right.
The Mall, Lahore.
42.
The Mall. The word the, like article.
Okay.
And then mall, M-A-L-L, mall.
Okay, thank you very much.
Lahore. And I have a telephone number as well, if you like.
Okay, quick, thank you.
Okay, 0092.
Okay.
42.
Yeah.
73.
Yeah.
23.
Yes.
963.
Okay. Thank you.
I bought this book from there 15 or 20 years ago.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you so much.
Maybe you could find it. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi
wa barakatuh. Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Thank you so much for taking the trouble.
I can add on to the brother's call. Actually, this book is by the name of Maghaz-e Mutafakkir Jahan of Shia.
Right.
It's a famous Persian book which has been published 4 times in Iran, in Tehran.
Okay.
And it's actually a translation of a French book, a French thesis published by the Research Committee of Strasbourg, France, who have come with all of the theories of the 6th Imam and the discussions of the 6th Imam and the debates of the 6th Imam, and how all of his theories, all of his true teachings, after many hundreds of years, have been proven by the scientists of today as being actually the truth.
Correct. Wow, excellent. Thank you. I felt doing a salawat after that. Thank you. Well, that's brilliant. And so, of course, we can recommend to our viewers, especially people who are interested in science, to get that, especially young people who are studying in, again, the sciences as a doctor or, again, pharmacist or scientist. It would be something fascinating, I think, for them to contribute at the university and to say, well, this is what we're studying, this is what Imam Jafar al Sadiq said about it.
I remember when we went to a particular religious library in Manchester, they actually had a book, the teachings of Imam al-Sadiq in terms of medicine, and how he actually helped in the teachings of the medics.
Right.
And university doctors now actually take some of the lessons from the life of Imam al-Sadiq. And sometimes what he would do very interesting is when he would be debating with the atheists, proving the existence of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and theological discussions, he would bring in biological, scientific discussions into the debate, where both it's a science lesson and it's a theological lesson in the same degree.
Brilliant. Thank you very much. And we've got another caller who's on the line now. Assalamu alaikum.
Assalamu alaikum. I'm calling from London. My name is Muslim Hashim. The gentleman just mentioned somebody by the name of Baqir Abdus-Samad al-Quraishi. If you could kindly elaborate on it, him and his personality, because I just wanted to know how credible is he. Unfortunately, I don't know anything about him.
Okay, okay. Thank you very much. Yes, so the authenticity, I mean, sometimes people do mention titles, and,
yes.
and you know, there might be
Abdus-Samad al-Quraishi was a scholar in Najaf.
Right.
Because, of course, because of the titles, the name of the title is, sometimes there are different people who have got the same title as Quraishi.
Right.
So we need to be careful. He was a scholar who, he dedicated a lot of his life to publishing biographies of the Imams. So what he done is each of the Imams and the Holy Prophet and the Fatima al-Zahra, he had a book dedicated to them in the Arabic language. And also what he done is, for example, we find it very difficult to find a book regarding Abu Fadl Abbas.
Yes, true.
But he also managed to write a complete biography about his life, and also Sayyidah Zainab. And there are other compilations that he managed to do also in terms of his life. And these books of his are quite widely available.
Okay, excellent. Thank you very much for that. Thank you. Of course, this is another thing, because we're talking about, you know, the contribution of Imam Jafar al Sadiq alayhi salam to the modern world, and of course we want to know about, you know, where his texts and theories are available. I mean, we did want to move on to the discussion of the events surrounding his martyrdom, but perhaps before we do that, you could have maybe illustrate with one conversation that took place.
For example, there were many discussions with the atheists of the time, and one of them, for example, Ju'ad ibn Darham, he one day got some mud and water, and after some time, some worms grew in that particular container. So he went to people saying, look, I'm a creator. I created this worm, these worms. So Imam al-Sadiq looked at him and looked at the worms. He said, how many worms are there in your container? The man looked, he said, I don't know. He said, tell me, okay, how many are male and how many are female? He looked again, he said, I don't know. He said, look, okay, you don't know how many there are. You don't know which are male and which are female. Okay, those which are moving to one side, order them, as you're their creator, to move the other side. He said, I can't do that. He said, you claim to be their creator. You have knowledge of how many, no knowledge of how many they are. No knowledge of whether they're male or female. And you have no control over them. Tell me what kind of creator you are. So one powerful statement from the Imam managed to move the hearts and move the discussions of the others. Another one that I would actually advise everyone to read is, there's a treaty, an actual book on this, by the name of the Tawheed al-Mufaddal.
Okay.
Where a companion by the name of Mufaddal was got involved in a debate in regards to monotheistic discussions in terms of theology. And Imam saw he was very upset and angry. He said, what's happened? He said, "Oh Imam, I entered a discussion with Ibn Abu Awja, who was very known for his theory of atheism."
Right.
And Imam said, "Okay, so what happened?" He said, "There were some discussions that I couldn't answer." So Imam said, "Come back to me tomorrow." Give him time for a break and come back tomorrow for a full lesson.
Right.
Imam spent 4 to 5 days with Tawheed, with Al-Mufaddal and Ibn Abu Awja. The first day he proved the greatness, the magnanimous creator that we have from just discussing the human creation. That's the first day. Second day, he discussed in regards to the animals that exist, the creation of the animals. The third day, he discussed the objects in this world, the movement of the objects, the stars, the sun. And then the fourth day, he discussed the different scientific discussions, the theories that there are, and how again we can prove the existence of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And it's a very detailed discussion between...
Is it in translation as well?
It's in translation in English.
Okay.
So it's available.
So that's
Tawheed al-Mufaddal.
Okay, brilliant. So that's another book to add to the reading list for everyone who's watching. And also, I'm always trying to encourage people to read as well, inshallah, because I think, you know, the weakness of the ummah today is a lot to do with a lack of reading and a lack of stamina.
He actually mentioned something in regards to literature.
Right.
Al-adab. He would mention that literature is the garment which one puts on. What he says or writes so that it may appear more attractive. So he would say that literature is one thing, knowledge is one thing, but he would promote everyone to go in the teachings of knowledge, and literature is an added element towards it. Imam would also, he wouldn't just be someone who would provide teachings, he would actually push the students towards seeking knowledge. Okay. Same as his great-grandfather, the Holy Prophet ﷺ, who would encourage many, the young and the old, to study. Imam as-Sadiq would always encourage them to.
He must have done that to have
knowledge.
had that many students who were so loyal to him as well. We can't imagine, you know, what he put in to attracting and maintaining that number of students. And also, as you say, there are still, you know, theses being written about him. Just moving on to the events of his martyrdom. What were the events that surrounded that? Why did the caliphate find it necessary to kill him?
So again, they noticed that many were interested in the teachings of the Ahlulbayt. They were in awe, they were in love with the sixth Imam. The sixth Imam was a hub for not just the Muslims, but rather anyone who wished to seek knowledge, they would go towards the sixth Imam. And what's interesting is that in one of the debates, someone said that, "Oh Imam, you're just doing this for a business trade." Then the Imam said, if you think that I'm trying to do this for a business trade, do you know what a diamond is? The man said, "I'm not too sure what a diamond is." Because if you don't know what a diamond is, do you know where diamonds are made? Do you know how diamonds are made? Do you know where the diamonds are in this world? So Imam gave him a science lesson within that. He said, if I have the knowledge of the diamonds of the world, which are one of the most precious jewels in the world, and you think that I wish to do all these lessons for business, then I would have gone towards diamonds and other things that I have the greatest of knowledge of. Imam done this all for sincerity, for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Then the caliphates of the time, they realized that many people are going towards the Imam. So the hatred and the jealousy and the envy grew and grew, so much so that they tried their very best to, they summoned the Imam towards Baghdad. And in fact, that was a blessing in itself. The Imam arriving towards Iraq, it was a blessing, because Imam Sadiq salawatullah salam alayhi, who would go towards the ziyarah of Imam al-Hussein salawatullah salam alayhi, he would give us lessons in terms of reciting the etiquettes of the visitation of the shrine of Imam al-Hussein. He would promote his students to visit the shrine of Imam al-Hussein. Those people who would come back, Imam al Sadiq would He commended them for the great act of visiting the shrine of Imam Hussein. He would pray to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, may Allah bless those tears which had been shed for Imam al-Hussein. So in itself it was a blessing. Even further, one of the greatest blessings of Imam al-Sadiq coming towards Iraq was the shrine of Imam Ali alayhi salam, which was unknown for many years.
Right.
Only the Imams of the Ahlulbayt knew where it was until the life of Imam al-Sadiq, where Imam al-Sadiq informed the followers of the Ahlulbayt where the shrine, where the Rosa, where the qabr of Imam al-Hussein is.
Imam Ali.
Where the shrine of Imam Ali alayhi salam is in Najaf. So in itself, again, it was a blessing. On those 5 occasions, there were debates with people in the courtyard of Mansur, the Abbasid Caliph. And he tried his best to find something that he wanted to imprison the Imam, but he couldn't. So Imam was sent back towards Medina, and he continued his mission of spreading the teachings and propagating the message of the Ahlul Bayt there.
So we've just got 3 minutes. He was martyred through poison.
Yes, it's very tragic that not only was he martyred through the poisoned fruit that was given to him, but before that, when we mentioned that Mansur was harassing the Imam, he actually burnt down the house of the Imam al-Sadiq in Medina. He ordered the army to burn down the house of... And what happened here is the companions went to Imam al-Sadiq, and they noticed he was shedding tears so much. They said, oh Imam, alhamdulillah, you're safe, your family are safe. Why are you shedding so many tears? He said, I shed tears for when I was seeing that the house was burning down. I saw the women were running from one room to another, from one room to another. What happened there is I instantly remembered the tragedy of Karbala, where my auntie Sayyidah Zainab and the woman would be running from one tent to another tent. So he always had that inclination towards the tragedy of Karbala. When the poison was given to Imam al-Sadiq, salawatullah wa salamu alayhi, Imam gathered all his family members, all of his close family members. He said, the last measure that I wish to give you to my beloved people is, none shall gain the intercession of the Ahlul Bayt, the one who takes their salah lightly. Man yastakhiffu bis salah. Let alone the one who ignores their salah, or neglects their salah, or forgets their salah. The one who takes their salah lightly. Salah is at 12 o'clock. They pray salah at, for example, 8 p.m. Just before it becomes qada. Salah has been established at this particular time. They're always thinking about everything else except for salah. So the Imams of the Ahlul Bayt are reminding us about the importance of salah. One thing that Imam also reminds us all, for us as lovers of Ahlul Bayt, كونوا زينا لنا ولا تكونوا شيئا علينا. Be an ornament of jewel for us, the members of the Ahlul Bayt, and do not be something of ridicule for us, the lovers of the Bayt. When people see us, let them see us as true followers of the Ahlul Bayt.
Thank you very much, Sayed Ali Khalkhali, for an excellent program. And again, we send our condolences out across the world on the martyrdom of Imam Jafar al Sadiq alayhi salam. And again, to encourage our viewers to read more about him and share your findings. Call in and do share what you have found about him as well, and to spread that to the non-Muslim world as well, inshallah. So thank you very much, and inshallah, thanks for your calls, and we will see you again, inshallah, next week. Assalamu alaikum.